He stood in crowded streets, anonymous beneath a hat and sunglasses, a ghost haunting his legacy. The youngest heavyweight champion in history, an Olympic icon, a man who clawed back his crown from the jaws of defeat. Yet Floyd Patterson wandered the world like a fugitive, not from rivals, but from you, from the glare of expectation, from the suffocating myth of invincibility. This isn't a boxing story. This is a man's odyssey through fame's hall of mirrors, where every triumph etched deeper cracks in his soul. Floyd Patterson didn't just break records, he shattered the mold. At 21, he became boxing's golden prodigy, a gentle warrior with fists like pistons and a smile that disarmed nations. By 30, he was a phantom, branded by 2 brutal losses to Sonny Liston that echoed louder than his 55 wins. But here's the truth they never told you. Those knockouts weren't his downfall. They were his rebellion. Patterson didn't fear failure. He loathed the spotlight's hunger to turn him into a god. He wore disguises not out of shame, but defiance. A champion refusing to play the role of invincible idol. Why do we fixate on the moments he fell? Because Floyd's greatest fight wasn't in the ring. It was against the demons we all carry. The crippling anxiety that stalked him before bouts. The dignity that made him apologize to opponents he'd beaten. The quiet fury that drove him to reclaim his title, not for glory, but to prove resilience isn't about never falling. It's about rising changed. Boxing didn't break Floyd Patterson. It exposed the lie of winning, as the world defines it, a hollow scorecard that ignores the cost of every victory. This man gifted us a paradox, a legend who hated being legendary, a champion who found strength in vulnerability, a hero who chose humanity over immortality. Decades after his final bell, his scars whisper a question we still evade. What does it mean to win truly? Floyd didn't have the answer. He was the answer. Before the roar of the crowd, the glint of gold, the immortal glory, there was silence, the kind that suffocates. Floyd Patterson's story didn't begin in a ring. It began in the shadows of a world that mistook his silence for weakness. Dyslexia scrambled letters like cruel riddles. Reform schools stamped him hopeless. Teachers dismissed him as too fragile. Neighbors whispered, too broken. But Floyd discovered a truth in a dim Brooklyn gym thick with sweat and desperation. Violence could scream louder than shame. And when he threw his first punch, the world finally heard him. Under the snarling guidance of Cus D'Amato, a man who saw dynamite in the quiet ones, Floyd's fists became poetry.
Ali comes out to meet Floyd, and Floyd starts to retreat. If Floyd goes back an inch farther, he'll wind up in a ringside seat. Floyd swings to the left, Floyd swings to the right. Look at the kid carry the fight.
America fell in love with the shy champion who carried books to press conferences. But fame, Floyd learned, is a fickle god. The same crowds that chanted his name would later dissect his losses like vultures. The insecurities he'd buried in the gym, they clawed back, defeat after defeat. The world whispered, fraud, fluke, finished. Yet they missed the truth. Floyd Patterson wasn't just a fighter. He was a phoenix. After humiliation, he'd rise. After knockout blows, he'd return, masked and anonymous, hungry to reclaim his throne. What makes a champion? Not the roar of the crowd, not the glint of gold, but the silence between collapse and resurrection. Floyd Patterson's story isn't etched in trophies. It's written in the blood-stained dust of the canvas, in the defiant whisper of a boy who refused to let brokenness define him. His legacy? A ghost, not of failure, but of relentless proof. Even shattered things can rewrite history. But legends are hungry. The higher you climb, the louder the phantoms howl. And Floyd? He sprinted through the shadows, chased by a truth boxing would rather forget. Heroes don't sell punches. Redemption doesn't glitter. Tutus, 7. A number that cracks like thunder in the annals of boxing lore. 7 times Floyd's knees kissed the mat against Ingemar Johansson in 1959. 7 times the world sneered, "This is how a heavyweight king dies." The sport turned its back. Heavyweights don't rise from humiliation. But Floyd did. Not with a snarl, but with a quiet, coiled fury. 1 year later, he carved his vengeance into Johansson's jawline. A 5th-round knockout that rewrote the rules of resurrection. History was made. Redemption was televised. So why does his name fade in the echoes of Ali's rhymes or Tyson's growls? Because boxing thrives on villains, characters draped in arrogance, not grace. Floyd was different. A paradox, a gentleman in a savage sport, a hero who carried demons like armor. He wept after losses. He hid his face behind disguises, ashamed of defeat. He fought not for glory, but to outrun the boy who once slept on New York streets. Fists clenched even in dreams. Here's the tragedy they don't teach. Redemption isn't a finish line. After the belts, the ghosts still came. Losses to Liston. The weight of being the first to reclaim the title. A crown heavier the second time. Yet Floyd never stopped fighting. Not just opponents, but the world's hunger to reduce him to a footnote. We don't talk about Floyd Patterson because he forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Heroes aren't invincible. They're human. They break. They bleed. And sometimes, their greatest triumph isn't victory. It's the courage to stand again, long after the world stops watching. Boxing moved on, but somewhere, in the dim glow of memory, a ghost still dances. Fists raised, forever falling, forever rising. The boy who turned brokenness into a weapon. The champion who refused to let his story end. What's harder than becoming a legend? Enter Sonny Liston, a nightmare with fists. In 122 seconds, he didn't just beat Floyd, he'd erased him. And here's the moment that defined Floyd forever. The heavyweight king, fleeing in a fake beard. Not from fear, but from shame. Ali didn't just defeat Floyd, he dissected him. Round after round, humiliation after humiliation. But while Ali danced, Floyd endured. Outside the ring, Floyd fought a bigger battle. Death threats, segregation. He refused to fight in the South unless arenas were integrated. He stood with Dr. King and paid the price. They called him fragile, but fragile men don't reshape history. Fragile men don't stare down giants. Floyd Patterson was resilient. And resilience is the quietest form of courage. Hit like if you believe legends deserve a second look. Subscribe for stories they want you to forget. This is Floyd Patterson, and this is how you honor a king.